Weather is very nice here, but it's snowy where you are, so I'm kind of glad the tables are turned, frankly.
Tables have turned. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Jordan's back up in snowy Canada, up in the very top of Canada, I think. That's what I'm assuming.
Elevation wise, I think it's the highest livable place in Canada. It's 6,000 feet plus.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
And special guest host this week, Monilee Keller. If you don't know Monilee, she is a in real life mountain bike racer. She is, of course, an e-racer, one of the absolute best in the game. I think you're ranked 15th now. I was just looking at it, something like that.
I don't know.
She's very humble. She won't talk about that, but I will because that's what I do. Mom of three. She's a group manager at Microsoft. She likes to spend her time, let's see here, biking, making cookies, of which I have not received any, though I've begged many times. Playing with her kids, doing different sports and activities outside. Monalise, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Monalise, I can tell you also have nice weather there, so let's make sure, because you're sitting outside, let's rub it in Jordan's face as much as we can. Because when it
It's going
was,
to start rain. It's Seattle. It's going to start raining any minute. I know.
It's actually been here. We just got the boat brought out of storage because we're like, let's go play in the water. Sorry, Jordan.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was 85 degrees, or what is that, 23, 24 Celsius. Uh, Yeah, it was amazing here. So, in the winter when Jackie and it was like 0 degrees, and you're like, it's 85 here.
Yeah, I know.
Tables have
All right.
turned, Jordan.
Lap it up. Enjoy it.
Yeah, we will. We will. We will, absolutely. Yeah, so, as normal, let's kick it off. Let's talk a little bit about the Premier League and the ZRL. Jordan, Monalise, Monalise definitely knows about the Premier League because you were racing in it today. Uh, so yeah, maybe Monalise, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about your experience today in the time trial?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I did this post on Insta today, and I was like, "There's two things I know about the team time trial. One is we're gonna have fun because we have a great group of ladies, and we always have lots of laughs on Discord, even though we're in a lot of pain. And the second part is that it's going to be really painful, and they were both very true. Um, did fine today. I'm still getting used to the changes with the draft dynamics, and I think a lot of people are. And so that definitely played a bit of a factor, I think, into being able to hold that straight line, the time trial line that you want to be able to really hold in a team time trial. It just seems to be a bit more challenging and take a bit more practice, I think, for teams to be able to do that. And when you have a group of people who also have, kids and jobs and other things in their life, then you don't necessarily get the time that you might want to practice as a team for the team time trial. And I think that would really make a difference, especially with the new dynamics to be able to have that time practicing together. But yes, it was definitely painful. It was definitely fun. We felt like the teamwork and the communication was good, which is super important in a team time trial, and everyone did their best, and that's all that we ask for. So we were super happy and proud of ourselves as a team.
Yeah, so I have a question for you. I know you're a smaller, lighter rider. In our team, we just finished up. We're in the Americas East Division. We have one guy who's like 129 pounds, and then kind of a whole bunch of guys who are like 200 pounds. Did you
Mhm.
notice as a lighter rider getting stuck on the sticky draft as people came back more, well, like way more
Yeah,
than it used to?
yeah, yeah. It's a lot worse. A lot more. Actually, this on Sunday I did a race, and it happened to me pretty badly right at the end, right before the sprint, and I got off. I got dislodged from the group that was sprinting because of it. And yeah, it's definitely something that I think as a lighter rider, you need to pay a lot of attention to. You really do. We were communicating a lot about that today. Actually, it was like, hey, I'm stuck behind you, right? So we could tell each other like, drop it to two until I get past you, and then you have to kick it, right? So that sticky draft is definitely a factor, and that was a lot of our communication today was just like, "I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck." There was a lot of
Yeah.
"I'm stuck" because and most of us are not that big, and even with us all being relatively close to the same weight, you still are dealing, I think, more. I think the sticky draft dynamics are a lot harder now.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. There was one time where this guy, he was like third wheel. and someone dropped back going like 1 watt per kilo, and he was going 4 or 5, and he got stuck on them,
Yeah.
tailed a whole bunch of people off the back, and I mean, not his fault at all, and because I was de-essing for him, so I had a
Yeah.
nice easy week. My voice, I was a little raspy.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really rough being the DS. It's almost as hard as racing. Uh,
Yeah, I feel for you,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. Sympathy will come pouring in, I'm sure. But yeah, it was like, so we had to like in situation try to adjust our tactics because of that,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I don't personally like the new draft physics. I think it makes the
Me
game
either.
much more difficult. It seemed to have made, like, the biggest critique of Zwift was that it was an FTP test. Like, that's what IRL riders would say. And it
Yeah.
made it way more of an FTP test, in my opinion. And it took away some of like the skill of the game, I thought. And
Yeah, I liked it better the way it was for
and
sure.
and I mean, to almost like penalize small riders
Yes.
more. I
I've
mean,
got,
like, they were already at a disadvantage, I felt like. Go ahead, Jordan.
yeah. Yeah, well, so I've actually, because I've been inside because it's been snowing, I've had the chance to ride the new pack dynamics a lot in the last 3 days. Um, and yeah, doing some of the tour Watopia, just group rides, just for fun, not racing. But the first thing I noticed about it was that as a lighter rider, and I'm a tall rider too, 60, 61 kilos, but 6 feet tall, I'm getting roasted now on the flats. Like they changed it so that I have to do 5 watts a kilogram to close up to a 4 watt a kilogram rider who is heavier. And even though in real life, like I'm very narrow and my watts are very low on the flats compared to other riders. And so it just seems like, okay, now the big riders have a more of an advantage. Even on the climbs, like a 5-6% grade, somebody would be sitting on my wheel doing like half watt a kilo yet less. And that's not realistic, I can tell you, but that's hard, man. Like that makes it a lot more difficult. Yeah, the drafting is very frustrating. You get shuffled out and there's no reason for it. You have to be paying attention, otherwise you just ride at your FTP the whole time. I would say that I like it more in small groups. I
Yeah.
think that because now you can actually take someone off the back and sprint around them and sort of play those tactics a little more because there's no blob as much. It's easier to attack off the front for sure and hold the gap. You actually have to work behind to close the gap a little bit as a group. So it's a little more realistic in that sense. It's a little more breakaway friendly, but the frustration factor is huge, man. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
You can, yeah, and if you get shuffled out of that draft and it's going hard, especially if you're a small rider, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like you're done. There's
Yeah.
no, it's like 3 meters,
Yeah.
goodbye.
No,
So
I had a feather and I was sprinting for my life and I mean I barely just caught them. It was just like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
it's
It's
tough. And watching the TTTs, it's a mess, man. Like it doesn't look good anymore. It kind of
yeah.
looked for now. It looks like crap. It's
Well,
even the best teams like Canyon are like gaps everywhere. Pio Auto had a huge gap in between their top three riders in the finish line. I've never seen that before. They're like the most well drilled squad. So I don't know. Like it's like, oh yeah, you got to learn the new dynamics, but how much learning?
yeah.
These guys are trying. These gals are trying. It's hard.
Well,
So
and like on our team, I know I was watching it, and you'd have a rider here and a rider here, and they'd be riding like this, and they just
yeah,
wouldn't
Yeah.
tuck in, and it was like,
Yeah.
it,
And you'd get the gap thing. And notice a
well,
gap because you're not actually in
yeah,
the draft. And you're like,
well, and then
what?
and then this person is like, well, maybe if I go faster, and then you overlap, and it was like, and so
yeah,
like I didn't want to like the guys on my team did. It was one of the best rides I've ever seen. Period. So like, but I didn't want to in situation try to coach them, be like, hey, don't try to close that gap. Just hope Zwift takes you over eventually.
yeah.
Like what a crappy DS thing to say. Like it was just kind of like,
Cross your fingers, boys.
yeah,
Hope
yeah,
and pray.
yeah. I know, I know. Yeah, like it was very odd, and yeah, I do feel like it's taken away. I get what they're trying to do, and I'm appreciative of them trying to iterate through things. But I do think there's a point, and I mean, I don't know all the feedback from the community, but I think there's a point where you need to be like, okay, this didn't work the way we wanted, you know?
Yeah. There's it's just got to keep evolving. This definitely can't be the finished product. That's
No.
what I'll say. So I guess to sum up the men's side of the Premier League today, the power was out. Like there's some huge rides in there. Sarah's Pros Closet came back and finished on the podium after some off weeks. And the usual suspects, Canyon and Pio Auto up front. And you're seeing a good amount of parity now. I think Dave told me, made a comment on that, that there's a lot more teams in the fight now for the top five, it seems, than there used to be. And a lot of the teams that are coming up from the community league are getting right down to business and getting up there, including Finesse, the team that I race for. They came seventh today. I think they were fifth last week. So that's good. Like the parity's good. That's what makes it exciting to watch. But yeah, it just seemed like a lot of amateur hour. And poor Dave and Matt Stevens were like, oh yeah, they're trying to ride together. There was a lot of that, like, oh, looks like they've made a small error there. I was like, yeah, I know, it's impossible. That's why they made the error. So but yeah, we can talk about it later. TTTs just aren't that fun to watch, man. Especially the London course for the 50th time.
What? So this is on me, and it shows maybe my my tech savvy. I don't know how to check the Premier League results after the race unless I'm watching it.
Oh, I just got the Zwift power up, man.
But did they order it correctly? I thought they.
Oh, I just have my little pad here that I made some notes while watching.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
You need to know the start.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
it's so odd that Zwift power doesn't. I literally, and I mean, I would prefer to watch the Premier League races if I had time, but like right now I just have to work all day.
2.5 hours in the middle of the day.
Yeah, well, like I love watching everybody race. Like I knew I was going to be talking to Monilee later, and I like wanted to watch her race, but life happens, and it's good to not get fired or anything like that. So,
Yes.
As a general, if you want more tips like that from No Breakaways, let me know. Don't get fired.
Life hack.
Yeah.
Try to stay employed.
Yeah, I'll drop these gems anytime. But yeah, so what happened in the women's race? Was it Heino like normal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Heino has not lost a race, correct?
No, and it wasn't really even that close either. It's always interesting on the women's side. I feel like the teams after Heino shuffle quite a bit, and there's a good battle there. It was actually hard though to follow the race in general on both sides and see like how the teams were doing throughout because the time splits weren't up. Like they would just talk about, looks like they're riding strong, and on the men's race, you had to wait 5 or 10 minutes after the finish to find out who won. So yeah, hard to make commentary on that. I don't have much better other than Heino was like actually of all the teams, men's and women's, they looked like the smoothest. They were always in a straight. I don't know how they do it. They're always in a straight line. Like they're it's going to take something to beat them. Going to take something to beat them. Maybe like 5 jackies or something.
So Monalise, what place did Insured get? I should have mentioned you're on Insured, presented by Pedal Power. Is that the whole thing?
That's correct. Yep.
How did you all end up placing?
We ended up 10th on the.
Nice, that's good.
Yep, not bad. We put in a good ride, and we were one of those teams that they were talking about saying, well, they're kind of riding in a blob, but I guess that's better than having gaps.
Yeah.
Like the team that they were commenting on had a bunch of gaps, and so they were doing a lot of the same kind of commenting for the women's race, I think, as they were doing.
The gaps aren't that much in the top 10 either.
Yeah.
And those sort of moments where it blows apart and the physics are frustrating could easily cost you a top 5 instead of 10th. Like a couple of those, you lose 15 seconds. So yeah, it's probably another thing they need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a rider get dislodged that way on one of the hills, and so we had to do this little bit of a soft pedal for a while, make sure that we could regroup. But it's one of those things again with the way of the draft dynamics, get spit out the back, getting back on, tough go.
Yeah. Yeah, I did my first race on Saturday. and I was still able to average less watts than the group. My goal was just to stay in the top group and try to figure out the new dynamics because I just haven't raced
Yeah.
much. So I was still able to average less watts, but it was so much more effort to do the same sort of thing than it was before. I mean, it was just constant having to punch, or you just risk getting shot off the back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Kind of hopping into this, I think we've kind of got there, but what do we think of these TTTs? And also, like, what would we want to see with the race format in the Premier League? And when we're talking about that, I think the ZRL would follow really nicely with whatever changes we're talking about. Monalise, what do you think?
You might be asking the wrong girl. I think they should mix it up a little. Like, I think that they should do. I like how they're doing. Some races are climbing and some are on the flat. I think that's good. Some are more crit style and some are more circuit. I think that's good. But when we were qualifying for races back last fall, we had to do some really long rides like Quatch Quest and some other those courses that are kind of epic. Um, and I think it'd be cool to just like not every week, you don't want to do that, but like mix in a couple of long courses every once in a while because you're gonna have different riders that rise to the top depending on the course type and the course length, right? And so I think it's fun to really mix it up. They have a lot to choose from in the Zwift worlds where they could do really long climbs and short climbs and longer races and short, do the really short like sprint races, like do a 20-minute race sometime, right? That'd be crazy, right? It's just going to
Yeah.
be balls out the whole time. I think it'd be more fun from my perspective if they would mix it up a little, like they are doing it a bit, but I think they could do a bit more to mix it up.
Yeah.
That might not be a popular opinion though.
No, we literally talk about that every week. Anna Russell said the same thing last week. I think that the long courses would be a big plus. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Rick, you have a strong opinion on these TTs, I think so.
I mean, I like the idea of it that it promotes teamwork. Like, I get what we're going for. I honestly do. Like, I understand that. And it does. Like, you have to be very drilled as a team. But realistically, it's not like in a TTT, the results are wildly different than in the scratch races. They're more or less the same. So
Mhm.
we're all working as a team, anyways. And maybe one TTT a season, maybe. Like throw in an ITT individual and add up the times or something.
Yeah.
Or just
Or
don't
just do
do.
an ITT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead,
Good point.
I like the idea of varying. Like, I don't personally want to race super long races, but also I like I would, because it would be fun to vary it up. I like the idea of sprint races. I come back to this all the time. Zwift does not have to be constrained by real life racing. It could be
Yeah.
anything. You could do a flight style crit race
Oh,
on Crit City where every team's like number one rider or whoever you want to designate as number one. And then you play games that way where they all go off and face each other. And then you add up the points like cross country style scoring and lowest score win. You could
I
do
like
anything. You could do anything.
Yeah.
You know,
so.
like
Yeah.
somebody brought up doing a relay race one time.
Yeah,
Maybe it
that'd
was
be
Anna.
so cool.
Yeah, like
That'd be so cool.
So
yeah,
dope.
you could do anything. You know what I mean? Like,
It's all still teamwork,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so, but I think you're probably yelling at clouds again when it comes to team time trials, because let's remember who runs this whole thing.
oh yeah,
W.
yeah,
Yes. Oh, it's going to be team time trials, but I agree. They're boring to watch and they're predictable, and it's the same effort every time from your team, right? It's like, yeah, we're all going to pull at 6.5, blah, blah, blah. And so it's
well,
pretty.
not always 6.5, Jordan, but yeah, we're all going to pull at X watts.
Jordan's
Let's
gonna pull
talk to
at
the
6.5.
humans.
Yeah, Rick is going to do 8.5,
I'm
and,
gonna I'm gonna DS. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, it's totally, and as a viewing product in the Premier League, like, and we've talked about that too before, is like splitting the Premier League from ZRL so we can have different product. Like the long races would be great to watch for you, right, Rick? You might not want to ride them, but it'd be great to watch
Well,
something develop and simmer, and like big breakaway groups on climbs and stuff. So yeah, I agree with Monilee on that. And yeah, the formats can change. I would like to see a mass start TT, so everybody on time trial bikes, all going at once. I think that's one of the best viewing things. We saw that with the tour of Andrasta
Yeah,
on the
Oh
weekend.
yeah, yeah.
that
Those
was
are
cool.
fun. It's like an individual time trial, but everything starts together. Yeah, that's super fun.
That's nail biting, and we could do the cross country style scoring for that. So it was like super competitive for
Oh
every plate.
yeah,
I'd like to see maybe an eliminator, like on the track, the last rider gets eliminated every lap. So it's like a sprint from the back. I love that.
that'd
We
be
could do
fun.
that in the city. I would like to see an uphill team time trial because then you have to like ride to your slowest rider and help them whenever you can. Maybe not on like the Alp, but on like Epic KOM where it rolls. You can
Yeah,
they do those types of things. I would like to
yeah.
see a downhill team time trial. Like it would be
I'm more for
ripping.
that. I'm more for that.
That would suck.
I'm more for that.
Just
Monolith
yeah,
doesn't want that, and you probably don't want that, really, Jordan, as a rider. But I'm
I'd
good with
love to
that.
watch. I'd love to watch it because
Yeah,
it would just be like 800 watts and then stuck, and
yeah.
so
It would be.
The
all
weigh-in
this
would be
stuff.
fun that week. I could just
Yeah.
like 3 pizzas, just whatever.
But like, can you imagine the buzz of something like that? People would be talking about Zwift
Yeah,
race.
That would be so
It'd be
fun.
yeah.
And I mean, and I think that's where Zwift racing, like, if you're going to make the argument that we want races 40 to 60 minutes because of viewability, then you can't have TTTs because they're so
no.
boring. Like, they're fun to ride in. I really enjoy riding in them. Yeah, I mean, like when I'm in better shape, they're kind of fun. But like watching them, it's like, oh, here, and here is Canyon riding in a line. Here's Hino riding in a line, and it's like, oh, she's taking another pull at exactly what the last person was taking a pull at. Which I get is super hard to do, and I'm not negating at all the skill. It takes a ton of skill, but like, I think the argument on watchability for adding in a Quatch Quest, for just doing something like you said, create some buzz. Like you could write an article on cycling tips or whatever. I don't know all the sites that well. Velo News. If you had a downhill time trial with all the best Swifters, that would be super. Like you could write an article, it would get in there.
Yeah, crazy.
You could never do
Even
that
a
in real life.
relay or like a bunch of different formats that would just be really interesting and different, right?
Even a team time trial around Crit City, like
Yeah.
a 2K
Yeah,
time trial. It would be
yeah.
ballistic.
Or
And you
like-
could do
It'd be
flights with that too,
Yeah.
right?
It'd be insane.
Eliminators.
You could do
Yeah.
something where, like, okay, so let's say we're doing Box Hill, right? You could put 3 of the people on top, 3 of the people on the bottom, and they had to go down, and then the next person goes up, and then you'd have to pick who goes down and who goes up. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a cool thing about Zwift. Nobody's gonna crash. Well, my bike fell off a trainer once because I didn't tighten it tight enough, but like, no one's gonna crash, right? Like you can literally
Yeah.
do anything. Like
Yep.
we need to literally do anything.
Especially if we're going to run these leagues 40 weeks a year, we definitely need to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because now I've seen London team time trial 4 times or 3
3.
times. It's pretty predictable now. Like I know what's going to happen. Oh, there's a big climb. There's a big climb out of the subway. Oh, really? Okay, not over. Like, oh.
Yeah, it's like in real life racing. Right? I do the same courses over and over and over again. Yeah, like
Yeah, Paris-Roubaix is once a year for a reason.
Yeah.
It's once. Yeah.
And I think like Monilee, you said earlier, like give other people a chance. Like you did what, a 3.5-4 hour ride at 5 watts per kilo or something. I think you told me it was something crazy. It was
Like
some
4.3 or something.
okay, just obscenely high, obscenely high. And I know you can do stuff like that too, Jordan. But us mere mortals can't. But like, it'd be cool to give you guys a chance to try some crazy thing on a 1.5, 2 hour course. Because in a 40 or 50-minute race, you guys are both very competitive and but like you can't try to go off the front on the Alp or whatever, It would just be really cool to give other people, like not other people, but like just because I know Monilee, you've been top 10 in a number of races, but like just different tactics, different things would be awesome. So
And it is different skill sets, right? Like I do think you'd different people popping out. You'd see some of the same, but you'd see some some new names, which I think is always fun, right?
Yeah.
And I think what makes cycling racing great on the road is that there's always an alternate tactic, even if it's very unlikely. There's always an early breakaway, and you can try that. There's always a climb that's 2 climbs away from the finish, and you can start that. There's always a corner in the crit that you might crash going around. There's always an alternate way to do it. But on these Zwift races now, there is no other plan. You have to play
Yeah.
it the way it's played, right?
Yeah.
These are the rules. You're not going to try to break away, like you're not. So yeah, I agree. But yeah. Now that what is there one more team time trial now that we have to go through?
Yeah,
Or
one
two?
more. I
Okay,
did like that they added more. So
that was
the
cool.
Premier League. So when you do the sprint, because I think that makes it
Yeah,
interesting too, right? Because then people like when it was the top three, it's like, well, I'm only gonna go for it if I'm pretty confident. Like otherwise, why would I burn my energy? Because you're burning a match that you don't get to you don't get back,
I'm not getting back.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
like and I remember last season for the cobbled climbs race or whatever that course with the 1, 2, 3, it was maybe the UCI circuit, but it was like I went for the sprint a couple times and I was done. Like I couldn't I had had nothing left for the climb at the end. But now that it's 10 deep, it's like, oh, you can if your tactics are good, you can do
sneak.
that without burning too much of a match. And yeah, that's kind of fun.
Oh, I think cobbled climbs will be an interesting race though next
Yeah,
week.
it will.
That'll Rick's not interested.
I am looking forward to DSing that race. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's going to
I
be
think that
so hard.
I think that'll
Don't
be
talk
really
about it. I have to do an in real life 60-mile mountain bike race on Saturday, so I'm a little nervous
Well,
about what Tuesday's gonna
you're
look
going to have to
like.
earmuff it, Monalise. Like,
Yeah, I
that is
know.
going to, I mean, you have 15 incredibly hard climbs.
Yeah, I think this
Like,
could be a game changer race. Like, I think this could finally be one where it blows into small groups.
it I don't see how
Yeah,
it doesn't. I don't see how it doesn't. There can't be that many people that can handle 15
it will.
climbs the same. It's one thing to
Yes.
go like the Innsbruck leg snapper 3 times. Like there's a
Yeah.
huge range of people who can do that, But like that's gonna be nuts.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Monalee's gonna win the damn thing after
I would put money on. I know. I wouldn't surprise me.
Same with Jackie's the same way. Well, I wasn't feeling very good, but did you win? Oh yeah, yeah. So
I know.
the women we get on this show are pretty spectacular. Right?
It seems like you're kind of hoarse, Monolith. I mean, like you're punchy and it's gonna be
Yeah,
super
yeah,
hard. Like
yeah.
you are like a drag out type of person, it seems like able to do
Yeah.
that mentally.
Yeah, it is my type of course for sure. And I mean with the mountain biking, it's really interesting. I did this mountain bike race, I don't know, a while ago, and then I was looking at the profile of my watts because I have a rear hub power tap on my mountain bike and comparing it to the profile of my watts in a time trial because it's really punchy in the time trial because you do these really hard like 30-second to 1 minute efforts and then you recover and the 30-second 1 minute you recover. And it was identical. It's like that's what you do in mountain biking. And depending on the course, but it's like you go really, really hard and then you go really, really hard and then you recover. You go it just over and over and over again. So yeah, that's what I like to do and that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to watching you race it.
me too.
We'll see.
Are you racing next week, Jordan?
No, man, I'm at altitude now. I was having a hard enough time staying in it at sea level. Like, there's no way I can compete in Premier League at 6,000 feet. I don't have those 7-8% to give.
Just
So,
drag your trainer down into the valley or whatever you're talking about, man.
yeah, I care that much. I definitely. No, we're gonna start racing and have team camp with the team at the end of May, early June. So it's
Yeah.
time to knuckle down and get to work on that stuff a little bit. Learn to ride my bike outside properly.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So next up, we have our racer of the week. Admittedly, we did not have time to look through the community. We apologize, but I know Jordan has someone that he wants to highlight.
yeah, this is someone, and it was a great event. Let's start with that. And don't even know how to pronounce it, but the
Tour
Tour
of
of
Andrasta. Yeah. It's sponsored by
Andrasta.
No Breakaways.
Yeah, it was great, and it was actually came out of a little bit out of a conversation with the rider of the week. She was asking, I can't make all the Premier Leagues because I'm a microsurgeon and I actually have to, do that. So she said, "What else is there for women's racing?" And I said, "Well, it'd be great if there was another stage race like Boudica. Those are awesome. I love watching those, and I guess people love racing them." And so we talked to Ryan at Obesk Fiend, and he said, "Yeah, we can get something going." And I think he already had it cooking a little bit. 3 day stage race, really cool opening time trial, custom finish on Box Hill on the last day, and cool sprint course on the second day. And yeah, Esta Boville is the rider of the week, and Esta is actually near and dear to my heart because I've been working with her since October, I think. Around the World Championships time, she wanted to get into. She's a racer on the road. She's done lots of UCI stuff. Very big engine, small package, and very strong. So, and she's like, "Well, I want to do the World Championships." And I said, "Well, it's a lot of build up to do that." She was new to Zwift, but I said, "Let's figure this thing out." And she just got her first smart trainer, I think, and we sort of started her up in the B races, and she started kicking ass pretty shortly because she's so strong. But from a tactical perspective, it was a learning experience because her fitness got her into the Premier League level very quickly. She got onto the Ceres development team and then into the Premier League, but the tactics weren't there. You couldn't expect them to be in a month or two. So every week for the races, like I go over the notes, I use Rick's videos for the courses and sort of tailor it to her. And we talk about what went wrong, what went right, and how to apply that power that she has. And it's really come together. She's been in the Premier League. This is her second season. She's scoring points now. She's been in the top 30 a few times. But this race on the weekend really suited her down to the ground because she's a climber. Like she's a diesel rider. We're pretty similar, actually. I don't think either of us can. Maybe we don't have 1,000-watt sprint between us. But this race suited her because the time trial was all up and down. I've never seen it on that course before in Yorkshire, 10 kilometers, and it was all either up or down, and then the Box Hill finish. And so I used best bike split. We analyzed the time trial. We got the plan together, and she nailed it. She won the time trial. She had the fastest time, A plus or A, by quite a bit. She defended well in the sprint race, which before would have been a big challenge. Like she probably would have been out of the lost time on the sprint there. Instead, she actually attacked them and just got caught on the line, so that worked out well. And then she won Box Hill too, with it was personal best power on a lot of the stuff, and really small group in the A pluses, I think, like 10 riders, but that makes it all the more challenging tactically. So because if you let a rider go, you're probably not getting them back. So yeah, really impressive start to finish. She won the time trial, won the last stage, defended on the second. Estebavo, rider of the week.
Yeah, that's awesome. And shout out to the Warrior Games for putting that on too. A super cool event. I know it took a ton of work to put on that stuff. So we really appreciate all the race organizers putting on what they do.
Yeah.
WTRL too. I know we talk about ways to improve it, but we want to do that because we care a ton and we love what you're doing. Like the ZRL Premier League has so improved Zwift racing. So, thank you to all the race organizers for sure. I don't mean for us to sound negative. We just
do.
Yeah, we just do sometimes, but we just want them to be better. Yeah, we should see if we can get one of the WTRL guys on one time.
Right. Yeah. Let's hope they never watch another episode before that.
No, it'd be okay. I've emailed them before. They seem like nice guys. I offered to put on something on No Breakaways one time for them.
They're Canadian, so I probably know them.
Aren't they English? But one of them
I
moved to Canada.
I thought, I don't know. I read Alberta. So.
Well, we'll talk about it with them when they come on the show. So yeah.
On here right after Eric Min, we'll have them.
I can reach out. I'm not afraid, as you both know, I'm not afraid to cold email people I don't know. So
you've been killing it with these guests. So, I mean, look, we have Monilee, we had Anna Russell, this place, it's going places.
I know. The problem is our guests are so much better than we are, Jordan, including Jackie, that we sit here and we look like, and we were going to have another special guest who also would have made us look bad this week. So
very
But
bad.
she had work commitments, so we just have one guest host making us look bad. So that's perfect.
Sorry.
I know, sitting outside on her porch.
You're stuck
I'm
with
very
me.
jealous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still light out there. It's pitch black here. All right, so let's talk about Monalee's tactic of the week. I love this one. Monalee, take it away.
So yeah, you asked me for my tactic of the week, and I was like, I don't know if I have any tactics anymore. The draft is all changed. Everything's different. Um, talk a little bit about racing with your heart and your brain. So, what I mean by that is being a mom of 3 young kids and working full time. I have a full time job at Microsoft. These races are in the middle of the day, um, and I don't always have a lot of time to prep for them. And so sometimes, okay, more than I'd like, I show up to the race and I'm like, what course are we racing again? And so I think it's really awesome to use your brain. And I always try to watch the tips on your show, Rick, to see, okay, what is the course like? What do I need to think about? The one go, I just didn't have the opportunity. A bunch of family stuff came up and just took away the time that I had to prepare for the race. And so I was just kind of going into it saying, okay, well, that's when you kind of race more from your heart, where you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna just you're more reactive. But like, we went around the same loop over and over again a few times. So you kind of get your first time, you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and hang on, and you're just racing based off of instinct, and based off of the riders, the avatars that you kind of see around you, and that's when you're really just using your own experience and racing more like you're still using your brain, but it's more like it's gut, it's instinctual, it's from the heart, I would say. And then when you're feeling good, and that's when I think the heart comes into a lot. Is like, okay, now you're feeling good, let's go for a sprint and see what happens, right? And again, that's just kind of you're gauging where you're at, you're going to go for it, you're going to put your heart 100% into it. And that's one thing I think for me that I'd say, no matter what the result is, personally, I can walk away from any race and say I gave 100% of whatever I had in me. I was all in. Whatever the result, like I was 100% in to get whatever result that I got. And I race. That's how I race. All in for the race, and doesn't always mean a good result. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Um, and I think the using your mind thing is, being smart about it, right? Like knowing what your strengths are, being able to study the course is a huge advantage, that everyone should do. But also knowing what you are good at, and also understanding the dynamics of the game are really important. So I know that, for example, in the old drafting dynamics, that if I got dislodged and we were on a downhill, I could do my sprint, super tuck, and I would have a very high probability of getting back on, if there was a small enough gap. Um, and just I'm testing out dynamics again to figure out what that looks like. But I know I have a really good sprint, so I know like I can use that to my advantage if I need to, if there's a gap. And you have to use it right away or you're dead, right? But like knowing what you're good at and how to use those strengths in a race, I think is another big part of kind of racing with your heart and with your mind, because knowing yourself, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're capable of that day. Like it might be that I have a killer sprint, but that day my legs are crap, so there's no way I'm gonna be sprinting, and you have to just, okay, that's where I am today. That's okay. We'll do something else, try something different. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about when you asked me the question, because I was like, I don't know if I have any tactics, but this is kind of what popped to my head when you asked me.
That's
No,
great.
I know, I love it. I feel like that's a position where most of us are in. Like when I wake up like early on a Saturday morning to try to ride before my kid's soccer game, like I don't even know what the course is. And like when I'm on the line, I'm like looking at the app, figuring out what the course is, like searching Zwift Insider. Um,
I
so
can. I think that part about leaving it all out there on every day and actually being honest with yourself, like what's my best today, and putting it out there. That's huge. We actually elevate my pro team on the road. Like that was a big message when I came on the team. Was like, let's start racing for today, guys, because in Zwift and on the pro circuit, there's so many races available. You can always say, well, I'm not that good today. So, well, next week or next tomorrow, or, I'll just come in and be credible today and then I'll try again. But like, you just waste so many days that way. And some of your best wins and your best results come from days where you really thought it wasn't going to happen. So you got to race for the day. And yeah, because there's so many days you feel like crap, but there's still something in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very real. I always find too that with the team dynamic, at least for me, knowing that I have a team that's kind of depending on me or with me, kind of there with me, beside me, is a huge motivator. So I will do more in an event where I'm racing for my team than I would probably do like in an event where I'm racing, just for me. Um, so that's part of it too. Like it's like every little last what just comes out, right? Because you're like, oh, I can do this, for my team. I was talking about that race where I did the sprint. It was on that UCI course, and then I just that last 2 minute climb, and that's a great climb for me normally because I'm punchy, but I had nothing left because I'd gone for sprint points earlier, and I knew that I just needed to get top 30 to get to get points. And it was like every last little what out of me to get 30th, just get points for the team. And that's a huge part of it for me too, is just being part of a community where you're really feeling connected to the team, and you want to do your best for the team no matter what your best is. Like, I'm gonna do it, like whatever that means. I'm in.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it too.
That's
And those-
cool. I mean, we talked about, joining a team last week. That was like that was the one big thing we talked about. So I really like that tie-in because yeah, I don't think we talked about that last week. Just being able to ring that last bit because your teammates are out there suffering as well.
yeah, that's advice I give a lot to people who want to be successful, in the higher levels of cycling and make it somewhere. Is like, there's superstars that can win every day, and usually we have one of them up there on this podcast or on this show every week. But for most of us, you can't win every day. There's very select courses where you're going to be the best. And the advice I give is try your damnedest to be a good teammate. Like, think of like, how can I be the best teammate right now? Because that'll win you friends, and that'll get you to where you want to go on to teams. People don't usually talk about the guy who got seventh place on the day, but they really talk about the guy that made the pull to close the gap, so the other person could win the race. And so on Zwift, that stuff happens all the time where you can really do something for your team time trials especially. But I think that's, you sell out for your teammates, you're going to go far, and irrespective of whether you're a superstar or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. That was a super cool one. When I saw that on the agenda, I was like, "That's awesome! That's so cool!" Um, yeah, and it's so actionable. I think that was fantastic. Yeah. So our one big thing this week, I thought it'd be cool to talk about with you, Monilee. I know we are in similar positions with a lot of people where, and Jordan, I thought it'd be cool to talk about with you too because you are in a very unique position to where you can maybe spend more time on some of this stuff, but how you do that. I wanted to talk about balancing training, nutrition with, what a lot of times is a really full schedule and how we all do that. And, kind of what makes things work for you, how scheduled should we try to be with this or how flexible should we try to be? So, yeah, Monalise, I don't know if you want to kick it off, because I know with everything you have going on, you definitely must be on top of things.
It's a complete illusion. No, I think for everyone it's so different. Like that's the first thing I want to say is like, it's so personal, your life circumstances and the time that you have, and when do you perform the best, and when do you have time to write, and all those things are personal. But for me, it works to be fairly to have a decent routine. Um, I like knowing when I'm going to ride, and I like knowing what I'm going to do for my ride. I don't always have the luck of knowing those two things. And I've learned to just go with it, right? So like maybe I had a plan to get up early and do a ride, but my 4-year-old Zoe is laying on top of me, snuggling me in bed, which happens fairly frequently. And if I move it, waking her up, and she's fallen asleep on me, and I don't want to wake her up um because I don't want to wake her up.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
4.
yeah. No, you don't need to say anymore. Yeah.
And then you just have to figure it out, right? It's okay, well, so I guess I'm not doing that. I guess I'm doing something else. And the exceptions for me is when I'm committed to like a race, and so I have to be pretty organized around the Premier Leagues. I am very lucky because I have an awesome assistant who manages my calendar and helps me my time so that I can do the Premier League in the middle of the day. Um, it's hard though, and I have to miss certain work things and make trade-offs to make the race. And so that's kind of another part for me of racing with your whole heart and your whole mind, is that, I'm making a sacrifice to be there. Uh so I'm giving it everything, right? Like it's got to be worth my time. And also when I do race in real life, it's the same thing. Like there's a sacrifice to my family. I'm away from my family for a certain amount of time to go do the race. So I better make it worth my while and worth their while, while I'm there, which just means not winning. It means giving everything. It means trying my best and doing the hardest. It means not giving up. It means not wussing out, right? So, and holding myself accountable for those things. But yeah, so the commitments I have, like with the races, I have to be organized around, and I have help, which is really which is really helpful, because I think it's really hard to balance actually. Um, and for the other stuff, I do like to ride in the mornings, and that's helpful because if I can ride before the kids are up, then I'm done riding, help with breakfast, and have, morning conversation with them before they start school. And that's how I like to start my day. I like to start my day with some time with the kids, before they start their schoolwork. And now they're actually back to in life school, so they actually leave the house. So if I miss that time with them in the morning, then I don't see them until the evening. Whereas before, I could just kind of like sneak you know, some snuggles in between Zoom classes. That's not happening anymore. So the mornings are, if I get up early, then I can kind of get it all done. And so that's generally what I do to try to fit it all in. But I do think it's a balance, and I've said this before, but I love the word balance because it is like a balance beam, right? You're kind of always never
Yeah.
really perfectly comfortable, right? And I think that's when you've got it right, is when it's like there's a little give, there's a little take, there's a little give, there's a little take. It's not like smooth sailing. It's not like it's just easy, right? It's hard. It takes work, it takes focus, but I think consistency is so important. At least it has been for me in my life as an athlete, like being consistent, being able to train consistently, being able to eat well consistently, like all those things, and sleep well are so important, that it's, having some routines to help you get that consistency, I think are really helpful. So like we plan our meals out on Sunday night. I make a schedule of what am I going to cook every night for dinner? What are we going to eat? We have an au pair who helps with the kids, which is super helpful. And um down and we plan out the week together. What does it look like? And that helps me know then when I'm done, okay, this is what in the day I get the meat out, like what needs to get out so we can cook it so it's ready. And then everything's just a lot easier if you actually know and you have a plan of what you're going to do. And like I said, then being okay when everything goes to hell, because it's going to. I'm allowed to say that.
Jackie swears
Be,
all the time.
okay. Like being okay, like to just roll with it, when everything goes to hell is also like really important, because it's kind of like, don't sweat the small stuff. Like, okay, so guess what? Everything went to hell and we're ordering pizza tonight. Okay,
Yeah.
no big deal, right? Like, who cares? And get one bad night of sleep. Are you gonna let that totally disrupt your training the next day, or are you just gonna give it 100% and try to get that ride nailed anyway? And just not sweating the small things for me is really important because there's a lot of stuff that comes your way, either with work or with kids or just life, that is completely unpredictable. And I think being being able to just kind of roll with that stuff, I think helps you survive.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think something that you hit on a little bit is like talking about getting help with things. And so this is something my wife and I, we both work. We have two little kids. You guys have seen them on the show sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, Thinking about what your time is worth is really
Hmm.
important. So we were trying to clean the house for years, right? And it took us each about 2 or 3 hours each.
Yeah. No.
And we were like, what is our time worth? Like, what? It costs
Yeah.
$200 to have someone come and clean our whole house. Is our time worth $30 an hour? Like, yeah, it's very, that's no brainer. And
Yeah.
I listened to this one podcast and the guy was like, if you should value your time at just an obscene amount if you want to be really productive. He was like, I used to value my time at $5,000 an hour, which
Yeah, me too.
I'm not quite there. I'm not
I
quite
don't get a
there.
lot done.
But like if you start valuing your time at like 500 or $1,000 an hour, which seems a ton, but when you really look at what you can do on the other side of it, whether it's doing a different house project that you wanted to get done, whether it's spending time with your kids, whether it's working out, whether it's all these other things to prevent you from doing something, especially if it's something you hate, like cleaning the house, it's so worth it. It's not even a question. And people are like, well, that's $200 and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's 6 total hours of our time that we're not spending with our kids, that we're not doing anything we want to do. Would you pay $200 to save 6 hours of your time? Probably.
Yeah.
Um, and thinking about how you value your time. So, kind of the same thing you were saying, Monalise, is
Yeah.
what we try to do around here to get
Yeah.
ourselves sane. And I always struggle with the nutrition part. We ordered a Green Chef, which is one of those things that just comes as a meal, which has helped eat more vegetables and stuff like that. But Jordan, what about you? I mean, you're a professional athlete, so this is your whole
Yeah,
life, and it's tempting to think that like, oh, it's real easy for you to do everything, but I'm sure it's not.
it's not. Like, I kind of think of our household as a business. Like, my wife is a software engineer and she's like, very capable, very high up. And so it's always a give and take, and we protect our time the same way. Like, I have free time because I'm not training as much that day. Well, I'm gonna clean, I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna set things up, I'm gonna make the calls. And I run a coaching business too. So yeah, there's definitely time pressure. I think any life well lived is gonna have time pressure, right? To get philosophical, right? Like, even as a professional athlete, if you're doing it well, your time should be very full with the things you should be doing to be successful. But I also have a pretty realistic slant on this because of the coaching I do. I deal with average people with I deal with CEOs and doctors and lawyers and moms and dads and people that have very limited time and stuff that happens all the time that interferes with that training schedule that I lay out. And so I think overall, what I've learned is simplicity and consistency is the most important, whether we're talking about training or nutrition. Like, I have a pretty get it done attitude. Like, a lot of people come to me with their Whoop monitors and their HRVs and their this and that. And a lot of, yeah, but they'll tell me, well, what should I do today? Because my Whoop says I can't. And the nutrition, like, I need to make this meal this way and then keto and this many grams of this. And I'm just, usually it's like simplify it. Let's do the best we can on the base level, and like get that done and get that rolling smoothly, and then we can add the Whoop and and that stuff if it's going well. And when it comes to workouts, races, I did this a lot myself before I got a coach. I would talk myself out of workouts, like, man, I'm not feeling good today, the workout's not going to work properly, I'm not going to do it. And this coach said to me, they're not all going to be diamonds, but they're all stones and they all go in the same bucket. So, sometimes they're pretty crappy looking stones, but you put the workouts in the bucket and they're done. And obviously, if you have a real bad workout, then you talk to your coach and maybe we back it off the next day. But I always get people to go in with the attitude, today's the day, this is the workouts on the calendar. If you're not dying, if you're not hacking up a lung, if you're not throwing up, let's try it. Let's get to work. And if it doesn't go well, let's talk about it. That's what my job is. And the same thing with nutrition. Like, let's think about the foods that make you feel good, and what when you're healthy, what are you eating? Like, what's something that's achievable for you? And what are the meals that are simple to cook? Like, is it that smoothie that takes 2 minutes to blend up? Is it oatmeal? Is it green plate? Is it the chef thing? Does that work for your family? Like, let's do all that before we talk about multi-layered supplements and like macros and stuff, right? And so I think it all comes back to that for me. And if you do those 80%, and well, that you'll get like almost all the results. The 20% you're almost never going to be able to control. That stuff's like up in the air. It's COVID, it's everything else that comes in and screws up your life. But if we get the base 80% done, you're going to get 99% of the results. And God bless you if you get the other 20% done. But like, let's not throw away the 80 to try to get the 20 and get like a crap result in the end. I'm sure somebody wrote it very more elegantly than that, but that's sort of my philosophy with things, and it really works for people. And in terms of recovery too, it's like, if you're feeling like crap, let's take a day off. Let's not overthink this. Like, let's not, you don't need to get in a hyperbaric chamber and put your boots on and, like, let's keep it simple, right? You're tired, let's rest. Rick says he's burnt out. Let's take a few weeks off, mate. Like, the same thing, right? Like, the solution is often right in front of you to these balance problems. And you end up going way too far in one direction to get one thing, and the other thing goes flying in the air. So, you two people have way more going on than me, obviously, but I can certainly appreciate that philosophy, and it does work for people.
Well, I think it's important to remember as a professional athlete, though, that you are paid based on your performance, and your performance is also based on your recovery. So, like, you need, because you're doing harder workouts, I mean, I would assume you're certainly doing harder workouts than me. I can't speak for Monilee. But like, recovery, like recovery is part of your job. Like,
Yes.
you have to do that. And so like, it's easy to be like, Jordan has 4 hours of ride. If I had all day to ride 4 hours, I'd be on. But like, you have 4 hours of riding plus that you gotta make sure you're doing, because performing at that level is how you get your checks.
And the biggest mistake people make, and I see a lot of this younger in my career, guys in my my colleagues would say, oh, I'm taking a year off school, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to ride my bike and train to be a pro. But the mistake is, you ride for 4 hours a day, and then you think of 85,000 other things you should be doing. I got to do my core, I got to make my smoothie just so, I got to do this, I got to roll, I got to do, and it's like, no, my philosophy is like, when it's time to recover, like, we got to shut off the brain, and I'll do other things. I'll work on the coaching, like I'll work on graphic design, I'll cook dinner, but like, you got to step away from this thing, right? And that's super important. And so when you're not like, people that are training like 10 hours a week, 7 hours a week, and that want to do easy rides, I often tell them, like, forget it. You don't need it. Just take a rest day, do something else. Do something that needs to be done. Take your mind and your body out of that. You don't need to flap your legs around for an hour. It doesn't help that much. Like, it really
So
isn't that
real.
important.
No, it's
Yeah.
very real.
Yeah, just like play with your kids, man. Like, honestly, right? Like, you want to get a little
I
activity.
love my recovery day. Like, I have a recovery day once a
Yeah.
and I mean, it's great. Like, I get some extra work done, or I get a little bit of extra time with the kids, or it's Mondays right now because we're racing on Tuesday, and I want to make full advantage of my weekend and get some longer rides in. And so it's just time to do whatever shit I haven't had time to
Oh, we're
do.
swearing now.
I know, we're in it. We're in it.
I agree. No, and I take, I ride up to 30 hours a week, and I would say 40 weeks out of the year I take a day off. So like, it's, I don't know. It's magic too. It makes you feel really good. It's, it's a big deal.
So I'm gonna tell the story. I was just laughing about it with one of my buddies the other day. So back when I was a runner, Me and 7 guys were doing this relay race in Southern Illinois, river to river relay. It was really fun if you ever get a chance. But we were racing, and we were racing against these college kids, and they were from the University of Illinois. They were very good. And one of us was lined up against them, and we were waiting for the next people to come in. You're chit chatting about stuff, and the kid goes, and you could tell I'm old because I call college kids kids. But he goes, "Oh, I can't."
I caught that.
I know. That's how I'm getting old. I'm over 40 now, so I officially feel like I can call anyone I want a child, and be very demeaning about it now too.
Ah, you kids.
Yeah, but no, and this kid goes, "Oh, I cannot wait till I get a job. I'm gonna have so much more time to train and run." And we got in the car because we're all like, at the time we were like late 20s or something. We got in the car, we were laughing so hard at him saying that because we were like, no, man. Like, I didn't have, whoever said it didn't have the heart to tell him that you don't have more time, you have much less time. But yeah, we still laugh about that. Like,
And if you were gonna get it done with the amount of time you had, you were gonna get it done.
yeah,
Like look at Monilee is obviously a superstar in multiple dimensions, and she doesn't have that much time, but she's getting it done, right? And I have a feeling like if I had 10 hours a week, I would probably still get it done. You can do the best you can. Again, 80%, almost all the results. So yeah, don't sweat those details. Monilee, we could probably just have left it with what Monilee said,
we
actually.
could. But we got to feel
No.
like this is why we get the big dollars, Jordan, is to add on worthless
Like-
text after
Yeah.
someone else said something good.
Yeah,
No,
we
I
should
love the point of thing though, the simplicity and consistency. I'm totally stealing that. I love it.
great.
It's bang on. Like
If I see that in a Microsoft ad in 6 months, I'm
you can cash in.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
whole conversation has made me realize something though, as we kind of close up. I really want Monalise to be my life coach, I think. Like, I want her in my ear when I'm racing. I want her, like, when I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to work today, she's gonna be like, I just need to record it, and I'll hit a button and be like, give it 100%, Rick. Like, that would be the best.
I hear her time is worth $500 or $1,000 an hour.
I bet you her time is actually worth
Oh, yeah.
$5,000 an
Oh, yeah.
hour.
I'm cheaper than that, Rick, if you'll put up with my voice.
Well, we'll have to see. I'll put it on the scale, the balance scale, like we were talking about.
Oh, you guys are great.
Well, is there anything else you guys wanted to cover, or should we wrap it up? What do you think?
That was pretty good.
Yeah, and of course,
if we must say so ourselves, it was
yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. We're humble to the core. All right, so as always, check us out at No Breakaways on Instagram and on YouTube as you are right now. Thanks to Jordan, Team Elevate Webaplex, and Team Finesse Esports, and Monilee Keller. Thank you so much for coming on. It's wonderful to have you at Monilee Keller on Instagram. You will get enormous garden jealousy if you go on now. I'm very, very jealous of your garden. And you'll get jealous of all the amazing pictures that she takes. But it's worth it to follow her anyways.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.